Hey guys, welcome back to my beauty stash, or welcome if it is your first time here. Hello, my name is Steff. I would love to have you become part of our makeup family, so be sure to click on that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if you enjoy watching. So today I am continuing on this series of sharing with you all the 10 best eyeshadow palettes in a given color scheme currently in my stash. Today we are gonna do grungy eyeshadow palettes. This is a color story that I absolutely love because, as you know, grunge is never without a green, and clearly I love green eyeshadow. I am gonna do a quick tutorial, show you how I got this look right here using one of the palettes that I will be sharing with you guys today. And of course, all of the makeup that I'm wearing in today's video will be linked and listed in the description box. Some of those things might be affiliate links, so if you do end up shopping through them, I thank you so much for supporting me and my channel. I will also link, of course, all 10 palettes that I'm going to be sharing with you guys today. These are going to be in no particular order. It was hard enough to pick 10, but I think I got some good ones. If you guys want to see the 10 best grungy eyeshadow palettes currently in my stash, keep on watching. Now guys, I do want to point out there might be one or two eyeshadow palettes that are no longer available, but I think for the most part, everything should be available. If not, if it's out of stock, it should be coming back in stock. And there are a lot of indie brands in today's video. Let's start first with the formerly known Alien Cosmetics. Now they are called Unearthly Cosmetics, and this is the Not Normal palette. I do believe this is currently in stock, and it does say Unearthly Cosmetics instead of Alien Cosmetics. So I think this was my very first Unearthly Cosmetics purchase, and this palette definitely did not disappoint. This palette is 12 amazing shades. We do get a nice matte heavy eyeshadow palette, but there are some really, really stunning shimmer shades. There are 4 different shimmer shades, and a couple of them have a nice little shift to them. Let me go ahead and just swatch them back here on my hand. For being my very first Unearthly Cosmetics eyeshadow palette purchase, this was absolutely amazing. I do have looks, guys, with the majority of the palettes that I am sharing with you today. I think there might just be 1, perhaps 2 palettes that I don't have a video with, but I definitely have a video creating a couple looks using this palette right here. The mattes are super pigmented, but they're very easy to blend. And of course, the shimmer shades are absolutely stunning. I really love this color story. Look at that beautiful green right here. And I love that we get a nice like sage green down here at the bottom. Of course, purple. Green and purple are, and like a mustard yellow, are definitely staples, I feel, when it comes to grungy eyeshadow and grungy makeup in general. And I do love that we get a nice dark color. This is a brown. This is not a black. So I like that even more. Really nice palette. This is the, once again, Not Normal eyeshadow palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. Next up, we have Lethal Cosmetics. This is my very first Lethal Cosmetics palette, and this is the Velvet Dusk eyeshadow palette. This is in stock right now on their website, and you can find Lethal Cosmetics here in the US at Camera Ready Cosmetics. I'm not too sure if this one is there, but if it is, I'll have it linked to both places. Lethal Cosmetics is a German-based indie makeup brand, and they do ship rather quickly. I know I've done like the expedited shipping, and I think it's maybe $10 or something like that, and I've gotten my stuff from them in about a week, so that is pretty good about Lethal. Another great thing about Lethal is you can pop out all of their shadows and curate your own eyeshadow palette if you have a magnetic palette of your own. But seeing as to how this is my very first experience with Lethal Cosmetics, I definitely wanted to buy a pre-made palette just so I could try the formula out, and I loved this one. I love that we're getting an orange, and this isn't exactly a mustard yellow, but it does have a hint of a mustard shade to it. And then of course we have a really deep purple, a lighter purple, a maroon type of color, and of course these beautiful shimmer shades. I feel like the Lethal Cosmetics eyeshadow formula has improved so much since this palette. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with this palette. I did have a good experience, but when I compared this to their newest palette, which is the Night Flower palette, which I have a video on that palette was outstanding. Like, wow. Like, total, for me, it felt like Lethal did a 180 with their formula. The multi-chromes in there, which they are new to making multi-chromes and stuff. But that Night Flower palette, amazing. This one is pretty awesome as well. I feel like for a grungy palette, we should get a little bit more mattes than we do shimmers, and that's exactly what you're getting in this Lethal Cosmetics palette. Nice one to try from the brand. All right, so next up is what I think is the OG grunge eyeshadow palette, ABH Subculture. Now, I know a lot of you had an absolute terrible experience with this eyeshadow palette. For me, I had the opposite. I never encountered any major issues with this eyeshadow palette. Everything seemed to work really well for me, and I loved it. I think this is what we knew as being outstanding formula, outstanding quality then, because I think this eyeshadow palette was released in 2016, maybe 2017 perhaps. It's been a while, and eyeshadow palettes from ABH, as well as from all of these indie brands that you are going to see here in this video, eyeshadow has come a long way, and a lot of these indie makeup brands are really just bringing their A game when it comes to top-notch eyeshadow formula, and these mainstream brands unfortunately are having trouble keeping up. If you were to compare this palette right now with this quality, say against an Unearthly Cosmetics palette formula, I mean, there is no chance for this one. I feel like the indie brands have just, they've been nailing it. They've been killing it with their formula. And back then, this was the grungy palette. This is the closest thing that we were gonna get to grunge from a mainstream makeup brand. And I have to say, I love the color story. Again, we have those yellows, we have the greens, we have a darker, this is like a darker brown shade. And then of course, we have some lighter shades to kind of use as transition. And we have fewer shimmer shades. I know a lot of ABH palettes, they can tend to be more shimmer heavy, but this is definitely more matte heavy, and I think it goes along with the color story perfectly. I mean, this was a nice palette. For me, it does come with a brush. For me, I've enjoyed having it in my stash. I haven't used it in quite a while. Mine is the original. Like, when it first came out, I ordered this palette. I know I've seen it, you know, at TJ Maxx. I've seen it like at Ross and stuff. I haven't repurchased it. I am not, but I'm glad that I still kept this around. It's nice to just go back and reminisce. I do have Modern Renaissance still, and you know, they were good. Back then, they were great. I think right now, they're just average, unfortunately, but I also feel that ABH is improving upon their eyeshadow formula, especially with the large Norvina palettes. That is amazing. Like, I love those palettes. I collect those palettes. I think that formula just kicks this formula's butt big time. So I do like that about ABH. They are continuing to improve upon their formula, and it shows. It shows especially in those Norvina palettes. Next, I have the Ace Beaute Tropical Vibes eyeshadow palette. How gorgeous is this? Now, this is definitely grungy green, and there's not a lot of room for anything else but green, but I still like that we get a couple pops of yellow right here. This is more of like a lime green yellow, but then look at these fun shimmer shades. And I know you're thinking, is that the palette that you have on your eyes? This is not the palette that I'm wearing. You guys will see. I'm going to leave that palette towards the very end, but I probably could have achieved this look with this palette, especially because I have this shade down here. If you have this palette, definitely let me know what you think of the formula. Ace Beaute kind of recently underwent a formula revamp. They completely changed all the formula of all of their eyeshadow palettes. They re-released them. This was a brand new release. This palette had not been previously released to my knowledge. So this was a brand new color story that came out, I think, the fall of last year. I loved it. I've had a really nice experience with this palette. It's a good size. I like the artwork on the front. Nice release from Ace Beaute. And if all you're looking for is grungy greens, right here, Tropical Vibes. Okay, so let's go back to Unearthly Cosmetics and the After Dark palette. This was a holiday collection from the brand, and this came with a highlighter, and I think it came with 2 different lip glosses, like really dark lip glosses. I have done a review over this one, so of course I will have the videos, any videos that I have where I'm trying out these palettes, they will be linked in the description box in case you want to go back and check those out. But I remember sitting down with this palette, I remember just swatching this palette, and I was rather intimidated by this palette because there's only 2 shimmer shades, 6 matte shades, and these matte shades aren't light. There is no real transition shade in here, at least for somebody of my skin tone. These are really deep, grungy shades, and I'm loving this pop of blue right here. Like, how fun is that with these grungy tones? We don't get a green in here. This is a different take on a grungy palette that's mainly focusing on like the purples and gray and of course the pop of blue. I guess this would be the closest thing to a green, but it's not entirely there. But here you can see what that shade looks like. It has a bit of gray in it, like a gray green. So I think it's just a nice complement to this palette. This one right here, I think is like a duochrome shade. It has like a blue purple shift to it. And then this one right here has like a white purple or white blue shift in it. Let me go ahead and swatch these 2 on the back of my hand. So yeah, one definitely looks more purple and the other a little bit more blue. But this was a really nice release. I don't know if this one was a limited edition or not. This one might have been. I know there was another palette, another box set collection that was released, and I have that one too. It was the it Smells Like Holiday Spirit, something like that. It had the girl on it like with the plaid skirt, and the artwork on the front was a yellow plaid. That was a really nice palette, and I did review that one, but that one was definitely a little bit more colorful. This was definitely the darker moment, the grungy moment of the holidays, and I really love this palette from Unearthly Cosmetics. So next up is a recent buy, a recent try, a new to me indie makeup brand that happens to be a collaboration, and I'm talking about the Heather Austin palette with Adept Cosmetics. Now, a lot of people have said that this reminds them of ABH Subculture, and I can definitely see that, although we're getting more shimmer shades than we ever did in Subculture, and I think this is a refreshing new 2022 take on what was a really nice release from ABH a while back, color story wise. We won't talk about the formula on that one. This formula, however, is fantastic. This was my very first time trying Adept Cosmetics, and one thing I will say, and this is on their website, use glitter primer whenever you are going to use the shimmer shades in this palette. That's going to just make them adhere better to the lid, and it's going to add so much more impact. I mean, they're impactful on their own, but add that glitter primer underneath and oh my god, like they're going to see you from outer space. And Heather Austin definitely loves her shimmer shadows, which is why she created a very shimmer heavy eyeshadow palette with Adept Cosmetics. Look at the yellow up here and look at the green, and then we have that dark maroon shade and a nice little transition like a tan shade here, and then of course all of these beautiful shimmer shades. Let me just swatch a couple of them in case you haven't picked this up. I did do 3 looks I think with this palette. So you can definitely see like all of the shifts, like the multi-chromes and stuff. Let me swatch back here on my hand. Let me know if you picked up this palette. I know a lot of you did. I've been loving it. I am so happy that I have this palette in my stash. It is beautiful, and I can most definitely, if I feel like busting out Subculture, I can use the matte shades that are in the Subculture, and then I can add the shimmer shades that are in this palette from Heather Austin. I think that would be a really nice combo, but I don't know if I should use Subculture. It is rather old, but you know, powders seem to last longer. They age better than cream products do, so I guess I'd be okay with using Subculture again, but this has been a really nice palette, a really nice addition to my stash. Next up, we have the newly repackaged, not reformulated, Melt Cosmetics Gemini 1 eyeshadow palette. So I picked up the bundle that included 1 and the new 2 palette. I am choosing 1 because I feel like this is more of a traditional grungy palette. The other one did have some grungy tones in it, but it was a little more pink berry toned leaning, and I think this one, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I think of when I think grunge, and they both performed equally fantastic, but I just gravitate to this color story more than I do Gemini 2, and that's why I'm putting this in my top 10. This is a beautiful palette from Melt Cosmetics, and I know Gemini 1, which is this one, had been gone for a while. They recently brought it back with this new packaging, which I love, by the way, and it coordinates so well with Gemini 2. Guys, if these are your shades, don't hesitate on this one. This is fantastic, and if you like those pink berry tone shades with also the fun pops of green, then definitely check out Gemini 2. I bought it as a bundle option. It was $100 on the Melt Cosmetics website, but I think I had a coupon code also, so it might have been a little bit less, but check out my review if you haven't yet over both of these palettes. That way, hopefully I can give you guys some inspo in case you are picking them up. But this is a really nice palette. I had no issues with the formula. I know Melt can be hit or miss sometimes, unfortunately, with their eyeshadow palette formula, but Gemini 1 and 2, beautiful. So next up is Natasha Denona Triochrome palette. This is the larger palette, and in here we are getting 3 duochrome shades. Now, I will say about this palette, these duochromes are not my favorites. The matte shades in here are fantastic, but these left a little something to be desired. And again, it goes back to comparing mainstream brands, which Natasha Denona is an indie brand, but it's a large indie brand. You compare them to, you know, smaller based indie brands, and here are those duochromes. I'm gonna swatch them on the back of my hand. They don't formulate the exact same way, okay? And maybe that's because they're doing, you know, a larger volume of products. I really don't know, but larger brands, mainstream brands, they haven't mastered, I think at least, the duochrome and multichrome formula yet. I'm sure they're on their way there, but right now the kings and queens of that are definitely the indie brands. So these are what these duochromes look like in the Triochrome palette. I mean, they're nice, but you know, when I compare them to, again, Lethal Cosmetics, Unearthly Cosmetics, Terra Moons, they don't compare, you know, they're a couple notches below. But I think this was a really nice matte formula from Natasha Denona. I mean, usually her matte formula is spot on, like it's perfect. I didn't encounter any issues with the matte shades, and I feel like this is a more lighter way to introduce grunge into your life. It's not full-on grunge. It's not giving you a lot of deep, dark, you know, grungy shades. It's a little bit on the lighter side, maybe a tad bit on the pastel side of grunge. But of course, we do have this deeper shade down here, that like brown gray shade where we can deepen up the looks with. We have another deeper berry toned purple shade right here, and then of course some yellows right in here, some nice transition shades, and I do think it's a beautiful color story. The only thing with this palette for me is, again, you know, the duochrome shadows. But other than that, guys, this is a nice palette from Natasha Denona that I'm sure would pair beautifully with other Natasha Denona palettes that you have in your stash, including the new pastel palette. 2 more palettes left, and one of them is what I am wearing on my eyes. Let's jump next to Nomad Cosmetics. This is the Haunted Europe eyeshadow palette. So we get a little bit of grunge in here. I wouldn't say this is a full-on grunge palette, but this is a semi-grunge palette, so to speak. We do have, you know, some more traditional shades right here, but then we also have that deeper green. We have that really dark blue. We have this gray purplish shade. We do have another deeper toned maroon shade in here. We have a dark brown, and of course we have this beautiful green shimmer. We have a couple gold shimmers up here, and then we have this nice like pewter shimmer. There's just so many different things that you can do with this eyeshadow palette. palette. I love the Nomad Cosmetics quality. I love their shimmers. I mean, their shimmers are just beautiful. Their matte shades are great to work with as well. This Haunted Europe palette is inspired by Transylvania, and just look at the cover art. Look at how it changes. This was their like Halloween release for 2021. I absolutely loved it. I do have a code with Nomad Cosmetics. It is Steff10. It'll give you 10% off of your order, non-affiliate code. I don't make any money off of it. But this would be a nice palette to pick up if these are your shades. And if you don't want a full-on grunge eyeshadow palette, but you want a little bit of grunge in your life, you might want to consider this. This is a year-round palette. I know it was released in the fall last year, but you can definitely use this year-round. There's some really nice neutral shades while still having fun pops of color in here. You definitely can't go wrong with Haunted Europe. And last but not least, the eyeshadow palette that I'm currently wearing on my eyes, and I'm talking about Kaleidos Flower Punk. You probably didn't think I was going to include this eyeshadow palette, but for me, this is the quintessential pastel grunge eyeshadow palette. For this look, I obviously focused on these 4 shades down here, but I also added this pop of a teal turquoise shade right there in the inner corner. You can see where this and Tropical Vibes, or you can achieve the same look with both, but this is such a beautiful palette, a nice take on a grunge palette from Kaleidos. I mean, you almost don't even think grunge or see grunge until you start playing with the shadows, because for me, I'm kind of drawn more towards this side of the palette. So I'm seeing pastel, but then on the opposite side, you definitely have grunge tones in here. I think this is just the perfect grunge combination for somebody who wants fun, bright colors, but also wants, you know, those grungy green tones. This is such a good palette, and I really like how it comes. Like the top part is magnetic, and so it just clips on and you can kind of, you know, play with it like that. I think the packaging is great, and I like that it's a really thin palette. Just a really nice release from Kaleidos. They have a really nice eyeshadow formula. I am wearing one of the Kaleidos, what are these called? The Cloud Lab Lip Clay. This one is in the shade Adobe, and I have a Wet n Wild lip gloss on to complete the look. But now that I've shown you guys the 10 best grunge eyeshadow palettes currently in my stash, let me show you how I got this look right here using the Kaleidos Flower Punk palette. That wraps up today's video. Definitely let me know your thoughts. What are some of your favorite grungy eyeshadow palettes that you currently have in your stash? Did some of your favorites make my list? Sound off in the comments down below. I want to thank you guys so much for watching another one of my videos. You all have a great day or night, wherever it is you all are at. Stay hydrated, guys. Drink your water. Cheers. And I will see you all very soon. Bye.